Okay, hello everybody. I thought it might be a good idea since I talk so much on social media about the presidential election, the Electoral College, and so forth, that I could actually sort of break down where I see the electoral map currently. This is, as you can see on the little countdown on the video there, we are 47 days out from the 2020 presidential election between President Donald Trump and the Democratic nominee Joe Biden. And I'm not going to waste a lot of time here. I just want to get in and kind of break things down the way I see them. I'm going to use the ABC News blank map. I've looked at several different sites have interactive maps we can use, but a lot of them put ads all over the page. And I just don't really feel like recording other people's ads and blasting them out at you. I'd rather use a blank page that's pretty clean and crisp. The only problem I have with this map is it doesn't allow for lean or it doesn't allow shades of red and shades of blue where I can say that, like, for example, Wisconsin is just very slightly leaning one way or the other, as opposed to California or Oklahoma, which are very strongly leaning one way or the other. So I'll just have to talk about it, but the map's going to look very solidly red or solidly blue. But it's just I think that's right. In fact, maybe not. Maybe it actually does allow me a little. We'll see, because it's the first time I've used this map. In any case, let's get on with it. The first thing I'm going to do is just fill in the states that are pretty much guaranteed to go one way or the other, right? I mean, these are locks. So let's get them out of the way first. We know that, for example, Donald Trump. Yeah, see, there's no shades of gray here. Which is weird because it gives us a key down at the bottom. And we only have a binary choice. So anyway, we know Alabama, we know Oklahoma, we know states like Kansas, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho. I don't want to forget Alaska. These are the states that Donald Trump pretty much starts within his pocket, right? There's virtually no chance that he will lose these states. These states are done deals, over. Put it in the bank, right? They always go one way or the other. So I'm sure I'm missing one or two here, but I think, well, the Nebraska main one is going to be, I'm going to go ahead and say all three of them. I mean, I know that Biden has a chance at one of the Nebraska congressional districts. For those that don't know, Maine and Nebraska actually divide their electoral votes up so that the winner of the entire state gets the two Senate-based votes, but then their congressional district electoral votes each go to the winner of that district. But I'm going to go ahead and say, just for the sake of argument, that Nebraska is a solid red state all the way around. I think that's all the guaranteed locks. So Donald Trump begins, in my analysis, with 116 points in his hip pocket, ready to roll. Now, let's see the states that just automatically, this will get a lot more interesting as soon as we get these states out of the way, right? I mean, we know that California's in the bank, and that's a huge, look at that. He almost halfway catches up to Donald Trump there. And we know that Oregon and Washington are going to go blue. We know that Illinois, where I happen to live, is going to go blue. And New York. So he's already taken a lead, 123 to 116, but we're not done yet. Vermont and Massachusetts and Rhode Island and Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland. Virginia has become a blue state over the last couple of elections, and it's pretty much a guaranteed lock now. It's in the bank. And Hawaii, of course. I always want to forget Alaska and Hawaii down there. They hide them down under. For some reason, they hide Alaska and Hawaii in Mexico. I don't quite get that, but okay. And then Maine overall is definitely a Biden lock. And one of the two congressional districts certainly is. The other one is where Trump may actually have a chance. But already right now, just putting down the, and Colorado is pretty solidly blue now. New Mexico is pretty solidly blue. So I think that's all the ones that I'm just guaranteeing locks for Biden. So that puts it at 209 in his hip pocket for Biden and 116 for Trump. Now, from there, we can start to break down the states that are kind of up for grabs, that we're not entirely sure about. And I've looked at the latest polling data. I've looked at the trends. I've looked at what I think, right? A lot of this is just my own intuition based on where I think things are going to go over the next 47 days. You know, we have 3 debates coming up, and usually every debate cycle usually has 1 to 2 moments that potentially can shake up a presidential race. 1 to 2. If it's 1, then that means that somebody was going along okay and they did something particularly bad or particularly good, and that sort of shook things up either for them or against them. If there's 2 moments, then they did something probably bad in an early debate that hurt them, but then they came back and kind of made up for it in a later debate. An example would be in 1984, Walter Mondale did well in an early debate by going after Reagan being too old. And that kind of gave Mondale the first lift he'd had the entire campaign. But then in the next debate, Reagan came out and said, you know, well, I don't believe that age should be a factor in this election, so I'm not going to take advantage of my opponent's youth and inexperience. And, you know, even Mondale chuckled at that on live television, and everybody's like, oh, Ronnie, you know, there he goes. He's hilarious. And it was pretty much over at that point. So sometimes the debate gives you that one moment that hurts, and some like Dan Quayle being told, Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy. I knew Jack Kennedy, that from Lloyd Benson. Other times it's you make it up. You kind of come back and make up for it later. So in other words, the debates that are coming up could still shake up some of the undecided states that are just on a razor's edge, like Florida. But I really see the election right now coming down to 3 states, really. Wisconsin, I've said all along, because it's such a 50-50 state. Democrats won it for 20 years, roughly, and then Donald Trump won it in 2016, and it really showed that he was going to win. He was going to win this the Rust Belt of Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and that was what put him in the White House. And I think that Pennsylvania is always critically important. This is a state Republicans coveted for many years, but they kept losing. And then Donald Trump won it in 2016, again, put him in the White House. Michigan was kind of the same way, unexpected. Those 3 really. Donald Trump has his eyes on Minnesota this time. He felt like if he was going to expand the map in 2020, one of the places he could go to win a state he didn't win in 2016 would be Minnesota, right? Because, I mean, he won a razor-thin victory in 2016 by winning Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania that nobody thought he could do. And if he's going to expand his map beyond that, Minnesota was probably the closest state that he lost that he had a real shot at winning. But latest polling I'm seeing is that Minnesota is pretty much out of reach for him. I don't see that happening. On the other hand, the Democrats are thinking the same thing about Texas, and they're putting some effort into Texas because it's a state that has been solid red, but they I think Democrats look at Texas and see the next Virginia. You know what I mean? They see a state where the demographics are rapidly changing, just like they did in Virginia. You know, Virginia for many years was a southern rural state that easily outnumbered its voters in Richmond and the suburbs of Washington, D.C. But in the 2 Barack Obama elections, 2008, 2012, and even in Hillary Clinton 2016, in all 3 of those elections, Virginia went increasingly blue because the suburbs of Washington, D.C. and Richmond became increasingly Democratic as just the generations changed and as people moved into the state. And so Virginia has solidly become a blue state, it looks like now. Democrats look at North Carolina, Georgia, and Texas and Arizona as 4 states that could conceivably be moving their direction, even as Ohio, Missouri have gone red, and now maybe Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania are turning red as well. If there's one thing we know about the electoral map, it's that it rarely stays static, right? You might have 2 or 3 elections in a row, maybe, where most of the states come out pretty much where they did last time. But there's usually change going on underneath the surface, and it can manifest itself in a flip at any time. And so states that used to be 50-50, like Missouri and Ohio, have become pretty solid red in the last couple of elections. In fact, let's go ahead and just give Missouri to Donald Trump. And states like Texas and Georgia are in the process of becoming blue, as Colorado, for example, and New Mexico have done recently. They used to be pretty solid red. So states that are a little harder to predict, I feel like, even though there's been some polls showing Iowa is competitive and it has gone, Iowa went for Bill Clinton, I think twice. Iowa has been a state more likely to be blue than red over the years. But I really feel like Iowa is very pro-Trump, and I feel like they're probably going to go Trump again. So where do we stand right now? We've got Trump at 132, Biden at 219. States that I think are probably going to go Biden's way, like I just moved Iowa to Trump. I think that probably New Hampshire always is the closest of the New England states, but I feel like it's still going to go blue. I feel like the same way about it I feel about Minnesota, that it's a tight contest, but it hasn't flipped yet. I feel the same way about Nevada. I know that Nevada has had a relatively close set of polls lately. It's down to like 3 points pro Biden in some cases, but Nevada always polls redder than it turns out to be, right? When they count the votes, Nevada usually ends up being bluer than anybody expected. And I'm going to say the same in the reverse about Texas and North Carolina. I know that in Texas and North Carolina, Biden is very, very close. But even right now, as Biden has been doing better really than he's been doing all along, even at the height of his lead about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I still felt like Texas was pretty solidly Trump. And I feel like North Carolina went for Obama the first time, but it went against Biden in 2012. It went for Mitt Romney, and it went for Trump in 2016. So I do think the Democrats might as well spend some money there if they've got it and do what they can to make it competitive. If nothing else, they can force the Republicans to have to spend money there that they could be spending better elsewhere. And so I'm going to go ahead and give North Carolina to Donald Trump. But I do think it will be close, and I think it'll make him spend money he doesn't want to spend there. Same is true of Georgia. I know that Georgia gets bluer and bluer every year, but it's still red, and I'm going to keep it red. So now we got 229 to 201. Now, the problem for Donald Trump is, at this point, he's now looking at 6 states and a congressional district that he's got to somehow cobble 69 electoral votes out of. He's got to find a way to get 69 electoral votes out of this map. Now you say, well, look, all he's got to do is win Florida. That's 29. Pennsylvania, that gives him 49. He just needs 20 more. Wisconsin and Arizona, and he wins. But I'm going to tell you right now, if he wins Florida, Pennsylvania, and Arizona, he's also going to win Ohio and maybe Michigan. He's going to run the table. Right now, and again, this is right now. Oh, I forgot to give, I always miss little old Washington, D.C. There we go. So 232 to 201. I'm telling you right now, I'm going by what the polls say today, which is September 16th. You can argue with me that they will not look like this in a couple of weeks. Maybe not. That's perfectly fine. I'm not living in a couple of weeks. I'm right now talking about what I'm seeing currently. So what I'm seeing currently is go ahead and give that last congressional district in Maine to Biden. And honestly, when I look at this map, the only other state I feel very strongly about going to Trump is Ohio. Ohio has gone from being one of the most 50-50 purple states, along with Florida, to really doing like Missouri. Missouri and Ohio about the same time slid to the right. Now, the map I look at now, what's left? Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Florida. Well, here's the thing. Those are the states that are going to decide the election. There's no doubt about it. Those 5 right there, to me, are the states that are going to decide the election. Not a one of them is worth fewer than 10 electoral votes. Not a one of them. So those are substantial states. And yet, here's the thing. As I see it right now, as I look at the numbers right now, Joe Biden leads in every one of those states. In fact, the one that he's probably the most solidly ahead in is Michigan. That puts him at 249. I'm going to go ahead and give him Michigan. Now we're down to 4. It's 249 to 219. We're at Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Florida. Well, if he wins any one of those states, I feel like that means he's recovered nationally enough to win 3 or 4 of them. You know what I mean? In other words, if he goes up in the polls enough to win any one of them, he's probably gone up far enough to win all 4. But that's not right now. Right now, the one actually I feel the strongest about for Biden is Arizona. And I never thought I would say that. I never saw Arizona going blue that quickly, but I feel like Arizona is very similar in some ways to Virginia. It's just about 1 or 2 electoral cycles behind. And so I'm going to go ahead and put Arizona blue. I think they're going to vote for Biden. I think they're going to elect Kelly to the Senate over McSally. You're going to have a blue wave, a little blue wavelet in the desert. Now, if Trump can't win Arizona, I'm not quite sure how he's going to win Pennsylvania. And look at that. Boom. Boom. If Biden can win Arizona and Pennsylvania, which are strongly Biden right now. Again, this is September 16th, not November the 3rd. I don't know where it's going, but I'm just predicting right now. Based on how it is today, if Biden wins Pennsylvania and Arizona, he doesn't need Florida or Wisconsin, y'all. I mean, think about it. He doesn't need either one of those 50-50 toss-up states. Trump could win both of them and still lose by 20. Let's check and make sure. Okay. 280 to 258. 22. My bad. Because it's 538. So all that Biden needs to do is win 2 states that he's pretty firmly in the lead in right now. And I've got him winning Wisconsin and Florida. You know, who knows? I don't know what to think about Florida. Look, you can't even make it gray again. I don't know what I'm going to leave it red for just a minute to make my point here that even if Donald Trump wins Florida, a state he's pouring millions of dollars of ads into, even if he wins it, if he loses Pennsylvania and Arizona, he can win Wisconsin and Florida and still lose. And if he loses Wisconsin, the loss is even worse. And honestly, if Biden wins Arizona and Biden wins Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, I don't know how Trump's going to win Florida. At that point, it's 319 to 219. So do you want to know how I see the electoral map as of September 16th? I see it right there as you see it in front of you right now. I see it Biden 319, Trump 219. Could that change tomorrow? Absolutely. And in fact, I would not be surprised before it's all over, knowing what we know now, if both Florida and Wisconsin go to Trump based on issues involving the mail-in vote, the ballots. I think that both of those states are very susceptible to problems they're having with mail-in ballots. We know that Florida has issues with counting votes. They're the poster child for having trouble counting votes. But even still, we're looking at a Biden win as of September 16th, 280 to 258. Just a couple quick alterations if Biden still loses Arizona. Good Lord. We have a 269 tie. The only way then, Biden could lose Arizona, win the other states, and win like that congressional district. Look at that. So one of Donald Trump's roadmaps to victory is to win Arizona, win Wisconsin, and get a vote out of Maine. But I don't see that happening. I really don't see that happening. I think it's going to look more like this. It could look like this. So right now I'm somewhere between 280 and 319 for Biden, and 219 and 258 for Donald Trump. All right, guys, I'll wrap it up there. But I guess leave me your thoughts in the comments. Be civil. Again, this is not me rooting for anybody or anything like that beyond anything you already know about me. This is just me trying to be a political scientist, as I am, and lay out kind of how I see it going right now. So there you go. And I'll do another one of these maybe in a week or so when we have some new polling and new numbers.